Hello there. I'm writing this as a last resort to try to understand something that's been happening to me. Something that's been happening to my body. I believe I've caught some sort of virus, and I don't understand it. I don't know anything about it, and I wasn't able to find anything out through the internet, so I hope some of you out there know what's happening. Anyway, I guess this issue started a few days ago. You see, I'm a mortician, meaning I work at a morgue, and I happen to be the person who performs the autopsies. Now, this man came in, and it was kind of tragic. He was a very famous scientist type. Not famous, but apparently very smart. And usually the point of an autopsy is to determine the cause of death. Now, this man seemed pretty obvious because he had committed suicide by blowing his brains out with a shotgun. But there was a reason he was sent to the morgue anyway. You see, parts of his body were still twitching when the police found him. And I've even seen a finger or two twitch while I've been surveying him. Not surveying, but observing him for the past few days. There were two more reasons. Well, there was one more reason why he was sent to the morgue, but something that I thought should be another reason. The reason was that his blood was completely black. Now, not the usual reddish or brownish black of coagulated scabs or blood, but completely jet black. Now, this was odd, and I assumed it was something to do with the laboratory work. Now, the second thing was, I noticed when I walked towards him there was a horrible, horrible smell. And I know dead people are supposed to smell, but this didn't smell like a dead person. This smelled unnatural, like something acidic mixed with dead bodies and fecal matter. I don't know how to describe it any better, but it was just the worst thing I could ever imagine smelling. The other thing was, the thing alongside that is the air around him seemed to have this weird brownish color. Now, it was hard to see, but it almost seemed like there was a brownish light above him. Now, here's the thing. I thought that maybe I'd gotten something on my mask, and that's why it smelled so strange and so badly. I held my breath, and I took my mask off. Unfortunately for me, I had slipped, landing face first on the table next to the dead body, and inhaling quite a large amount. I quickly jumped up and put my doctor's mask back on, hoping that was enough. But I did know, definitely, the smell wasn't coming from my mask. It was coming from the body. Anyway, I started checking his pockets, as you're supposed to do before performing the actual autopsy, to make sure they didn't have anything important on him that the police might have missed. I happened to find a note in his pocket, deep in there, almost in his second pocket. That would be hard to notice unless you were the owner of the pants. That simply read, "The first signs," with a list of symptoms seeming of a sickness. I called up to the police department to see what they thought, and though they told me someone would be sent to investigate it, no one ever came. I put the piece of paper in my pocket, thinking that, well, since I may be getting a sickness from this body, maybe I can understand what's happening. Anyway, that night, I felt really sick. I started throwing everything I ate up. I was super hungry, but no matter what I ate, I would throw it up. I ate candies, I ate fast food, Chinese, homemade meals, Italian, everything I could think of. And there was only one thing I didn't seem to throw up, and that was raw steak. I know it sounds like that would make me more sick, but for some reason, I had obviously called in sick from work, and on one of the days I was out, I didn't eat a single thing after I threw everything up. Something told me, I don't know what it was, something in my brain just told me to eat the raw steak I had in the freezer. I did, and I actually felt better. Then I felt so good, actually, I went back to work the next day. And the body wasn't there anymore. I thought while I was gone they must have moved it. I went through work as usual, but I continued to be super, super hungry. And out of curiosity, after I had accidentally dropped the note out of my pants, I read it. The heading, the first signs, was still there, but it also said the symptoms. The first symptom being unbelievable hunger and extreme nausea. Now, I was, needless to say, upset, considering I had found both those symptoms. I read a little further, and it said, extreme headaches and abdominal pain. I folded it back up and put it in my pocket, and I thought, I better call in sick again. I went home and had a relatively normal day, other than eating raw food, as usual. I went to bed that night, but before I actually got to bed, I had a headache so bad that I actually passed out from it. When I woke up, my stomach hurt unbelievably, and so did my head. I lifted up my shirt, and I saw that I had patches of skin turning a sickly grayish color, and I could see my veins with the blood way darker than it should be. As well as this, my ribs were showing, which was strange because though I had an average build, nowhere near being able to see my ribs while I was, sitting down, which is where most people can't see anything of that sort. As well as this, I found it hard to move, and I decided to read further on those notes that I had. It said the last few symptoms would be muscle atrophy, a greenish tone to the skin, and it even said certain parts of the body may start to rot, as well as the subject will puke blood. Now, I put it in my pocket, unsure of what to do. In work, I learned as much as I could about the man, and luckily, his body was actually still in the morgue. It was just put up. I was able to get it, and I found his lab coat. So I was able to figure out the lab at which he worked. I called up there, and I got a hold of a few of his work friends, or colleagues, whatever they were, and they told me about him. They said that he had started acting strange around the day that he killed himself. They said that he had been moving stiffly, slurring his speech, and they had even seen him eating nothing but sushi and raw hamburger meat. And I was even able to learn by one of the scientists who was apparently his best friend that the day he killed himself, he actually told them why. He told them it was because he knew now that the only way to make the pain go away was by eating a brain. Not by the brain of an animal, but a human brain. And he also knew he'd have to do this several times a week to make the pain go away. Then, he killed himself. As I've been writing this, I've found myself growing stiffer, the pain getting more and more and more painful. And finally, the last thing is, I have a strange craving. I'm starting to consider whether I should take my own life, because the only thing that sounds good at the moment is, I'm scared to say, but
breath.